Hey everybody, how's it going? Brbteabreak here, today with another World of Warcraft Battle For Azeroth video. Today we're checking out the Subtlety Rogue. If you want to see other class changes in Battle For Azeroth, check out my channel where I have most of the classes covered, and I'm adding a new one every single day. So the Sub-Rogue is really puzzling me here. It's interesting because not much has changed, if anything at all realistically, but it feels like they've lost their identity still, because they've nerfed the one thing that they're good at, which is AoE increasing their single target damage, and it still works. It still amplifies it, but not to the level that you're used to on the live Legion servers. Anyway, we're going to talk about the basic abilities, then the artifact weapon being gone and what that means for the spec, and then we'll talk about talents. So let's talk about what I was saying straight away, your AoE and your single target damage being nerfed here. That's all based around your Shuriken Storm. On the live server, Shuriken Storm does 100% increased damage during Shadow Dance, or during Stealth. Now it's 50% increased damage, which is a pretty big nerf to your AoE damage. Now, really, you don't pick a Sub-Rogue for the AoE damage purely. You pick it for the single target damage on top, which is where the good old Shuriken combo comes in. On live, Shuriken combo stacks up to 50%. Now it stacks up to 25%. So you're doing less single target damage, and you're doing less AoE damage. What does the Rogue do now? Sub-Rogues excel at using AoE packs to increase single target. But your single target gets increased, sure, but much less. This is what I meant, like, the spec still works, you're still going to do more single target because of AoE, but you're getting less value out of it, I guess you could say. Anyway, let's keep going along here to the other changes. Next we have the good old Shadow Blades has been reworked slightly. On live you get 28 seconds of Shadow Blades, but now you get 20 seconds, but it also applies a shadow damage portion to your backstab and your Shadow Strike. So that means that you can actually do lots of damage with your combo point generators, which is really cool, but it's only 20 seconds, not 28, which means you're getting less combo points, so then you do less combo point finishes, which means less damage overall, because your spec is based around, or the whole class is based around using your spenders for massive damage. So again, I don't know what they're doing here. They're making your finishes worse, but the spec is confusing right now. It's really all over the place, I feel. It's a nerf to the combo point generators, sorry, the combo point spenders, but it's a buff to the combo point generators, which don't do much damage anyway, which is very, very strange. Next, we'll cover the good old Shadow Dance here. I'm pretty sure this got buffed, because on live it says 4 seconds, now it says 5, and when you press it, you get the 0 second counts as a second, so it goes 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, which is technically 5 seconds then, I guess. Not too sure there. Doesn't call the GCD either, so do not panic. It still plays very, very nicely. But what does call the GCD is your Symbols of Death. So Symbols of Death on live is no GCD, exactly the same as what we got here. But that's pretty big, because on live, you can press this whenever you want and there's no repercussion. Especially during, say, a Shadow Dance window, where now, if you press this during a Shadow Dance, it costs you a whole GCD, which might not matter depending on how you generate your energy, or how you keep care of it, take care of it even. But I'll show you here. Let's say I do this, I'm now in here, okay, my Symbol's Death is up. Do I press it? No, it costs me a whole GCD to use, and in this situation it was okay. But sometimes you just won't be able to use it. And on live, it wouldn't matter what you did, because it had no GCD. You couldn't mess it up realistically, unless you overcap your energy. So this makes it much more difficult to use the ability. So it's good and it's bad. It means you have to be a bit smarter with it, but it also means it feels a little bit more clunky to use. I'm fine with it being on GCD, because outside of heroism, outside of, the pool, you don't normally have excess energy anyway. You're not GCD capped. So this really just fills out the rest of the fight to be a bit more GCD locked. So yeah, it's not better, but it's not the end of the world like everybody else thinks. The next one is Shadow technique has been changed slightly. It now gives you 8 energy on top of the 1 combo point. Now this is a trait on the live server for your artifact weapon, but now it's baseline, so that's really nice. But yeah, nothing too much there. And the rest is just your utility pretty much. So Shadow Step now has 2 charges, for example. Sprint has a 1 minute cooldown, where on live is 2 minute cooldown. Then we have Nightblade Slow is 50% on the live server, now 20%. Cloak of Shadows on the live server is 1.5 minutes, now 2 minutes. And Feint on the live server has no cooldown and 50% damage reduction, where now it's 15-second cooldown and 40% damage reduction. So pretty much the big 2 at the end there are your Cloak of Shadows being nerfed and your Feint being nerfed. And I'm 100% fine with these being nerfed, because if you do any sort of serious raiding, or PvE in general, you'll know rogues are busted in these regards. If you look at fights that are always the end bosses, look at Argus, Fallen Avatar, Kill Jaden, Gul'dan, all these fights required multiple rogues. In some cases, as many rogues as you could possibly bring because it was so overpowered, looking at UKJ. So, this means you can still do those overpowered things, but not as often. So this is probably better for the long term and better for the game overall. So in my opinion, a good change. Now, let's talk about the traits on the weapon, how that affects your gameplay. Really not too much. So you lost your artifact ability, Gormor's Bite. That gave you 3 combo points, 30 energy, and your next 3 finishes were for free. So really you saved about 90 energy there, gained 30. That's about it. It just meant you did more damage, didn't really add any gameplay to the specs, so really, I couldn't give a crap. Next, let's talk about the Flickering Shadows. This made your Vanish cooldown lower. It made it to 1.5 minutes versus 2 minutes, so that's a bit of a nerf there, I guess, to your burst potential slightly. It's not as big of a deal on the live server, sorry, on the Battle For Azeroth server, because the legendary shoulders are gone. So, not as big of a deal, but it does nerf you slightly because it means you don't get as many vanishes, which mean less shadow strikes, for example. Next, Energetic Stabbing on the live server gives you 50% chance on backstab and shadow strike to get 8 energy back. So that's pretty good. It means on average 4 energy reduction on your backstab and your shadow strike, which is about, about 10% of an ability, nearly 8%, or sorry, 15%. So yeah, it's a bit of a nerf there, but I don't know. It doesn't change the spec too much. It still plays the same, just you'd be pressing less buttons pretty much. And Fortune's Bite is gone also. That made your Shadow technique sometimes give you 2 combo points, which is really awkward because you couldn't play around it at all. And getting 2 combo points when you're at 5 combo points really bloody sucks. Now, let's go over the talents, because this is where most specs come together in Battle For Azeroth, and I don't think anything interesting is really happening here for the Sub-Rogue. So, level 15, we have a brand new one here, just kidding, reworked Weapon Master. Weapon Master has been reworked severely. On live, it does 6% chance on all your abilities to pretty much hit again, where now it's only your Shadow Strike and your Backstab at a 15% chance. So increased chance, but only for 2 abilities. So this means more combo points on single target, but it means less damage overall, because really, the 6% chance was more so for the damaging abilities like Eviscerate, maybe even your Shuriken Storm, stuff like that. So that's really nice for just more procs and more combo points, makes the spec a bit faster. Next is Find Weakness. Find Weakness makes it so your Shadow Strike and your Cheap Shot give you 40% armor penetration. Now, armor penetration is a weird one. Pretty much all you need to know is that physical damage is mitigated by armor. So this means that your Backstab, your Eviscerate, and your Shadow Strike now do 40% more damage in a weird way to targets with the armor penetration from Find Weakness. Now, overall, it's only about 10% increased damage. It's hard to tell because every monster has a different armor value in the game. But it is pretty cool. This gives you really big hitting abilities, especially when you're using Shadow Strike. It obviously means you're in Shadow Dance. So it makes your Shadow Dance do more damage pretty much, which is really cool. So you have constant AoE, you have constant damage with more combo points. You have burst here, and then you have Gloomblade, same as a live server, which pretty much just gives you more damage with your backstab because it's not reduced by armor anymore. Anyway, let's move on now to level 30. It's the same as live. Let's move on to level 45. It's the same as live. Except Mark for Death got moved from level 100 to 45, and the cooldown is now 30 seconds, not 1 minute. But besides that, exactly the same. Level 60, the same as live. Level 75, some new stuff finally. So Shot in the Dark, after you enter Stealth or Shadow Dance, you get a cheap shot for free. Well, the cheap shot that you do use is for free. Which is really nice. It still costs you a combo point, obviously, to use this, but it can help for leveling, can help for PvP, I guess. But really not that many uses in PvE content. Strike from the Shadows is the same also. Prey on the Weak has been reworked to actually be useful, I think. So on live, Prey on the Weak only gives you the damage buff while they're CC'd, where now it just applies the damage buff to the target. So for example, Cheap Shot lasts for 4 seconds. Prey on the Weak lasts for 6 seconds. And you actually get differences in the duration. It also means if you use something like Kidney Shot, even though it's shorter than the actual 6 seconds, you get a full duration of Prey of the Weak still, which is really good. It pretty much means now if you do any sort of stunning in a dungeon, you get rewarded slightly for it. Level 90. Dark Shadow got nerfed by 5%. It's 30% on live, now it's 25%. Again, nerfs your burst damage pretty much there through your Shadow Dance. Alacrity got nerfed also. On live, it's 2% per stack at 10 stacks, therefore 20%. Now it's 3% per stack up to 5 stacks, which is 15. So you get stacks much faster, but the total is much lower. So it's good for the opener, worse for everything else. In a dungeon, it doesn't really get better now because the duration of the ability is still 20 seconds. And unless you pull very slowly, this will be up the whole time in a dungeon. So yeah, that's a pretty big nerf in my opinion there. Enveloping Shadows is the same also. And then 100 is the same as well, minus we're missing a talent here. So, you might say, what's the problem with these talents here? Well, the thing is, the talents on live work because the AoE portion of the sub-rogue is already fulfilled. You already have that Shuriken Storm, the Shuriken combo making your Brbteabreak hit really hard. That all works together very nicely. And you have legendaries to also buff that AoE damage, in a way. Now, you have no way to amplify your AoE damage at all. None of the ones appear increase your AoE damage. Night Stalker, well, these kind of do in like a weird pseudo way. Obviously, this is generic though. 45 is generic, and 90 is generic for the most part also. So nothing is specialized in AoE. You can go, oh, but you do more damage with your Dark Shadow. But this doesn't increase my AoE specifically. I want a burst AoE option. I want a sustain AoE option. I want a weird lucky AoE option that's maybe RNG based, like the Outlaw Rogue is, or the Assassination Rogue is. Sorry. And that's the thing. I think the problem with the Sub Rogue is right now is that on live you can be a Sub Rogue for single target or AoE. Now it feels like anyway that the Sub Rogue is purely a single target based spec where you AoE and increase a single target. I don't really know how it's going to play out. And they're doing this to a lot of specs where it feels like, for a Warlock it's very heavy also, where it feels like, say, the Affliction Warlock is very much your AoE based spec, your cleave spec. And then your Demonology cannot cleave at all, but has really good single target damage and some really good AoE if they're clumped up. And this is happening for the Rogue also, where it feels like Assassination is bleed based, and Sub is stealth based by both single target, and then the Outlaw Rogue is the AoE option. So I don't know how I feel about that because, like, for example, Frost Mage can AoE and single target in any situation because you have talents to actually cater to those situations. Where there's no way to cater to, oh, I need burst AoE, what do I pick? Okay. I need sustain AoE, what do I pick? There's no options here. And that feels really, really bad. But the thing is, the spec plays exactly the same as lives. If you don't care about numbers, maybe if they change things again, it can work out. But for me personally, it feels like I'm really, really limited playing the Sub Rogue here currently. At least when it comes to BFA standards, where every spec has rows for AoE, single target utility, where the Sub Rogue only has single target and utility. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.